Well, we've reached that time of the year statistically when most people have already given up on those New Year's resolutions. And that's why I'm so glad that I hear many of you say, I'm not doing that resolution thing anymore. I don't want to just set goals. Um, because I think we're all starting to realize that has been glaringly ineffective for us. But today, let's talk about why that's ineffective and what you need to do instead. How to break those bad habits so you can really get to the life you want to live. It's your girl Genesis Blue, and we are in the Blue Room. Let's get into it. Family, I am so glad to hear that we are no longer into the new year, new me little, trend phase. And we're moving into more reality based thinking. I'm actually really glad that we're doing that. But we still continue to struggle overall as humans with meeting our personal goals. And that starts with creating really good habits for ourselves, right? And so today I want to teach you a 3-step method that really does work for, relieving the stress of, man, I just can't keep up with this habit, whether it's procrastination or I want to stop smoking or of course health and wellness. I want to work out. I want to stop negative thinking. If you're my clients, that's a big goal for us. Stop this negative thinking. Okay, I want to break it down and make it real simple for you in 3 steps. But I think one thing that people don't do a lot of is help people understand why they're having that issue in the first place. Why is it when I say I'm going to stop overeating, or I'm going to stop eating ice cream, and then the next week comes and it's in my face and I'm eating ice cream? Why does that happen? I told myself I don't want to do it. And not only that, when I do it, I then feel like crap after. Oh, I ate the ice cream. I said I didn't want to eat the ice cream. Now I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to have more belly fat. And I just can't get this right. So just forget it. And by the way, that makes me want some more ice cream, right? So let's take it back a step and understand the psychology of that, if you will. Our habits are typically linked to triggers, right? Something is triggering us. And because of that, we have this response. Our body's like, okay, well, let's do this. That'll help, right? And so, a lot of people like to use a lot of scientific terms, but I like to explain it in just layman's terms so the average person can understand, right? So, when anything happens, and this is when I'm doing therapy, I teach people about cycles. We all have cycles as humans. Human beings are habitual in nature. If you don't believe me, uh, pay attention to the way you do your morning or evening routine. It gets so specific for humans. You probably even wash your body in the shower in the same way. Do I do my face first, then under my arms? We typically do it the same way every time because, of course, there is comfort in that. There's comfort in knowing what happens next. So, human beings are, first of all, habitual by nature. So, like I tell people, you're not an alien. It is hard to break habits. Habits actually help us as humans, right? We just want to stop these bad habits. You feel me? So, like I said, something happens before you even get to that habit. And that, friends, I want you to first focus on before we even get to these steps. Ask yourself why. Why do I want to go have that cigarette? Why is it so hard for me to get out of bed in the morning? Why do I keep reaching for this ice cream? I said I wasn't going to do that no more, right? Why do we do that as humans? I want you to go back to what happens right before those things, or what is your state of mind or state of being, or where is your emotional state before that thing happens, right? So if it is smoking a cigarette, did I develop the habit of smoking, or in this case nowadays vaping, because it's something I do after work or after dinner. A lot of people will say I grew accustomed. I got a lot of teacher friends and nurse friends. They have a drink when they get home from work. It becomes a habit. But before they got home from work, they were at work. And it was stressful and tiresome and emotionally draining and physically draining. So they get into the habit of having a glass of wine when they get home. And before you know it, it's like, man, I need to stop drinking all this wine. What happened? Right? So we as human beings need to be very aware of what currently is stressing us, taking us out of our comfort zone, making us feel a certain way. We need to take stock of that, because that's probably what's happening before you get to that other behavior. So you need to ask yourself why. So I'm going to use myself as a personal example. The thing about me, I'm pretty square, right? I don't drink, I don't smoke, I never had done any of those things. However, I'm a sweets freak. I typically try to have a dessert after every meal, and that is horrible for my cholesterol and overall health. But it's so hard. I love desserts. So I had to tell myself, why do I love desserts? What's become a habit for me? I just like to eat a dessert after. There's this feeling that I get, right? And I trace it back to feeling comfort. It makes me feel comfortable. It makes me feel relaxed. It gives me warm fuzzies to have a really delicious dessert. I'm talking peach cobbler, ice cream, cookies, cake, pies. I like all of the things, honey. But what I realized is that is actually what made me feel comfort. No different from a person having a drink or vaping, right? But when I go deeper, I think about where that all comes from. And I gotta be honest, since a child, I have been very dessert focused. And now I have the understanding that when I was young, my grandmother made us desserts every time we were over there. Every time she would cook, she would home cook a meal. And then she'd say, hey, you guys want some malts and shakes? Because back then they would call them malts. They'd make malts, right? You want malts? You want shakes? You want a pie? You want some cookies? That's literally was her act of love for my brother and I, was to give us a delicious dessert to sort of commemorate the moment of us all sharing a meal together. And I loved it. It was exciting to me. It gave me warm fuzzies. Like, when do I go to grandma's house next? What are we going to eat? And then what are we going to get for dessert? And we would all sit around the TV watching with our food trays, eating dessert together, watching TV. That is a very good core memory for me. And it brought me a lot of comfort. Right. And so my grandmother passed away when I was a kid. And so that was abruptly cut off, those experiences, but they stay with me just like it was yesterday. So I imagine once I got older, I continued to find comfort in sweets. I love desserts. Right. And so I thought maybe nothing's really wrong. I just like desserts. But I do start to realize the more stressed I am, the more I'm really like, yo, I really need this dessert. And now I'm getting off the couch and driving to the peach cobbler factory to get some peach cobbler. Like, I'm doing the most about it, right? So I have to step back and go, whoa, I don't need to be doing this. This is not good for me overall. Okay, so let's talk about that next step. So number one, identify what that trigger is, what it traces back to. I think that's super duper important before you get to anything. We don't sometimes understand why, and sometimes understanding why makes that light bulb go off and go, oh, so now I won't allow that to have as much control over me now, because awareness is so powerful. Once you understand something, you kind of remove some of the power from it, right? Okay, so now that I know desserts is my weakness, it's my kryptonite, and I know why, now I've got to get out of the habit. Now, the number one issue with people who want to break habits is they don't have no damn plan. You know how many times my clients are like, well, I'm just going to stop smoking tomorrow. Okay, girl. Well, I'm just going to stop. Okay, dude. Yeah, you're not, because you don't have a plan. Every once in a while, somebody can do it. They can quit cold turkey. But there's usually a reason for that, right? Most people, most mere human beings, cannot break and will not break a habit without a plan. So let's talk about what that plan could be, right? In 3 simple steps, I want to help you understand. Number 1, you guys definitely maybe underestimate the power of willpower, right? And so we think we can just will our way out of things, and that is just not always the case. So instead of trying to will our way out of it, which obviously doesn't give us the most positive feelings, trying to will our way out of something, we want to sort of trick our own selves, train our brain to get into a different habit, right? So I first want to remove the accessibility of the bad habit, make it invisible, right? So for me, I'm no longer keeping desserts in the house. And by the way, I really am on a 30-day no dessert fast, okay? And what am I doing? I'm removing desserts from the house to start with, because usually it happens right after I eat, I get a sweet tooth. So if it's not there, I got to figure something else out. So I have removed all of the sweets from the house, or at least they're out of my view. The second thing that always makes me get a dessert is going out to eat. I live in Houston, guys. It is a food city. Some arguably say it's number 1. It's at least in everybody's top 3. We're always eating out. Not only that, I'm in the South, so anytime you visit someone here, they're going to offer you things. My mom notoriously brings me snacks every time. Like, can you please stop doing that, girl? I don't need it, right? And so in the house, I got that under control. Outside of the house, I have to have a plan for how I'm going to make it invisible, right? Don't make it accessible. I'm immediately going to be like, no desserts for me. I like to be proactive. I'm not eating desserts. I'm on a 30-day fast. Please don't offer me anything. Thanks so much for supporting me, right? Because people supporting you is such a big part of this. You know, if they're shoving the things in your face, hey, you want to smoke? Hey, you want to drink? Nah, come on, drink. For real, drink. That's not going to be helpful to you at all. So remove it as much as possible. Sometimes it's hard to do, but remove it as much as possible. Okay, I know a lot of people right now, it's the phone thing. I want to stop doom scrolling. All right, well, they have these really cool apps now that you can program your phone to shut down and stop giving you access at a certain time or between a certain time frame. I think that's really perfect. So look into that. Or just saying, I'm going to put this phone in the drawer at this time and I'm not going to check it, right? I'm not going to check it. And so remove the thing. Yeah. Don't make it accessible. Got it? Okay. Number 2, you guys want to have a habit, remove it, but not replace it with something else. You cannot do that. It's really, really, really hard for us as humans, right? And so what we really have to do is replace the thing with something else. Try it. Try saying, instead of doing this, I will do this, right? And so if it is my dessert, now I have fruit readily available. I try to get the most tasty fruit I can think of, right? Mango, strawberries, berries. So I can say to myself, "Ooh, I'm ready for this dessert. Well, guess I better get this orange right quick." That's all. And if I'm really craving something, it has to be a fresh juice. Like, that's the only sweetness I'm getting is from natural sugars, right? And so I find something to replace it. And then I do that. Number 3 is to tell yourself, if I X, then I will Y. Okay? So if I know I had a long day at work, I'm going to make sure that there are no cigarettes accessible to me, but also I'm going to replace that with chewing gum or going to work out or taking a nap. Whatever you can think of, watching a TV show that makes me feel good. How are you going to get a similar feeling, in other words? So, back to my dessert example, because I think it's the easiest way to understand. I have to replace the dessert with a fruit. If I try to eat something salty, like some nuts or something, it won't give me the same response because what I'm looking for is the comfort of the sweetness. So for sweetness, yeah, I don't mind getting that from a healthy fruit, right? And so I am going to replace. So if I feel stressful, I will go home and I'll grab a mango, right? All right. So if you want to stop eating bad, you have to be replacing that with something else. And a lot of times it can be a completely different behavior. But my whole thing is I still want it to be enjoyable because I'm just keeping it real. Like, if it doesn't give me some kind of feeling, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to keep doing it. But I feel fruit is a good alternative, right? It's hard for things like cigarettes and alcohol and things like, for alcohol, they make a lot of really cool mocktails now. Maybe you could replace that with a mocktail, or don't even go that way at all. Do something else that, relaxes you. Yoga, deep breathing, meditation, taking a nap. Because a lot of people say, I drink to what? Relax. So that means you need to find something to do that is relaxing, and it won't be drinking, right? So we basically want to make it invisible. We want to create a if then rule, really targeting those triggers. If I know this is happening, what's going to be my plan? And 3, we want to replace it with something else, preferably something else that still gives you that feeling, or at least some semblance of it. But you know what's most important of all, guys? If you mess up, if you fall down, just get right back on up. Don't go into self-loathing, beating yourself up, or giving up. It's really, if you make a rule in your head of, okay, I will never miss more than twice in a row, right? So never miss twice. That's the rule. And that keeps you from the all or nothing. I know so many people that have this all or nothing. Like, if I didn't do it exactly the way that I said, just forget about it. If I stumble during this 30 days of no desserts, I'm not just going to be like, well, I guess I can't do it. I didn't meet the goal. Well, the goal really is to be healthier, right? So just be careful also about how you're defining your goal. If the goal is to be healthier, then I'm still doing that, because instead of 30 days of desserts, maybe I only had 20, right? Or maybe I only had 5, or maybe I only had 3. It's still going to be better than 30 straight days. So I'm still essentially meeting the goal of healthier lifestyle, right? So don't be so hard on yourself, and look at what the ultimate goal is. Going back around to the why. Whys are important. Remember, first is, why is this having this impact on me? What is it doing for me? The last why is, why do I want to do something different? I think it's super duper important to know why you want to do something different, right? So is it because I want to be healthier? Is it because, I don't know, I don't want my kids to see me drinking every day when I get home from work, right? Is it because I'm trying to be more productive and that makes me feel good because I want to accomplish some goals? Why? Why am I doing this thing? Keep your why in mind. So if I miss one time, it is not the end of the world. If you just keep, you know what, I'll never let that happen twice in a row. Cool. Then we're good, right? And so it's Progression, not perfection. If you know me, you've heard me say that. It is not perfection, it's always progression. So, as we close, I'm not really worried about all of these New Year, New Yous. I'm not really worried about having 15 goals. I'm really worried about habit changes, which lead to lifestyle changes. Start small, pace yourself, be realistic, find people to help support and hold you accountable, and then we'll get somewhere. Progression, not perfection. All right, I'm going to leave y'all to it. If anything that we talked about today resonated with you, please send any questions or comments or other topics. You can hit me up at coachmeblue@gmail.com. That's coachmeblue@gmail.com. I also, of course, want you to share this with your homies because I think this is an issue that every human is struggling with. So subscribe, share it with someone else, and tell them that's what we're doing this season, right? We're taking better care of ourselves, but we're working smarter and not harder. Until next time, peace and life, family. It's your girl Genesis Blue and the Blue Room, and we out. Peace.